What's up, podcast? So today I have Lisa Williams on. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. So Lisa has a podcast, Recognize Your Truth, and she's also a marketing professional. And we've connected via LinkedIn, and I just wanted to reach out and get you on the show so we could kind of dive into what it is that you specialize in, and then, what's your show about, and talk about some real stuff.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, DJ. It's been awesome just, chatting with you offline and getting to know you and getting to know a little bit more about you. So thanks. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. So I guess let's start from the, let's get a little bit of context from your story. So you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, correct?
Sure. Yes,
okay.
I am. Yep.
Okay. So how did you kind of come about and, from, being a child growing up into what you're doing now and, hear about a little bit about your family and stuff like that?
So I've lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area since I graduated from college, which was a long time ago. I moved here right after college. I grew up in El Paso, and that's where I was born and raised. Went to UTEP, have a marketing degree before marketing was even cool, and now everybody wants to be in marketing. And moved to the Dallas area shortly after I graduated. Ended up meeting my ex-husband here. We were married for 20 years, and I have 2 kids. I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old son.
Okay.
And so kind of how I got into podcasting and where I am right now. Last summer, I was actually fired from my job. And rather than panicking or rushing out to find another job that just to fill that void.
Yeah.
I decided to take some space and do some of the things that I had wanted to do. So I wanted to start a podcast 7 or 8 years ago. As a matter of fact, that the microphone that I use, I bought like 8 years ago. I ordered it before podcasts were even cool.
That's that's a while ago. It wasn't cool at all back then.
So the company that I worked for at the time when I wanted to do a podcast, I was driving all over Texas, and I would get in my car, had a lot of windshield time. And rather than continuing to listen to music or as many books on Audible that I could listen to, I started just figuring out there's amazing podcasts out there. And there weren't that many. I mean, this was way before it blew up. And so I just started listening to podcasts and started connecting with these, not the producers, but, just the people that were producing these podcasts. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're putting out such great content.
Yeah.
I can do this. I know a lot of this stuff. I can do this. And so that was my goal, was 8 years ago, but my life fell apart. My ex-husband and I ended up getting a divorce and kind of going down that path right when I was thinking about doing this. And so, life got in the way and it never happened. So last summer, I had this space to actually, start doing some of the things that I wanted to do. So one of the things was to start a podcast. I also wanted to get certified to scuba dive. So I did that last summer. So just, trying to create things that were for me, that were fulfilling for me. So I created Recognize Your Truth. It's a top-rated podcast here in the U.S. and globally, and it's just kind of taken up. And so that's
so I know that's awesome. You have some really good stuff going on with that. And so tell me, how did you get into basically wanting to do that, like some motivation? Because I know your show is more like self-help and motivation and, talking to people about issues and moving forward. So what was your drive to want to do that?
So about a year and a half ago, well, let me back up. Let me just tell a little bit about my history. So got divorced. I've been divorced a little over 4 years. In that time, was dating somebody and met someone and ended up getting engaged and combined a life together with this man. And sadly, he was killed in a car accident shortly after we got engaged and built a house together and combined our lives together. And
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. It's been a journey. And so I had to find myself again,
Yeah.
after that. I sat in a lot of heavy grief, and I really had to figure out what is it that I want to do with my life, and how do I want to impact others, because I knew that if I could impact others, it would help me heal myself.
Yeah.
And so I created Recognize Your Truth as a brand, but I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with it.
Gotcha.
And decided to get certified to coach and speak and train through the John Maxwell team.
Okay.
So about a year and a half ago, this was back when you could do live events, went to a John Maxwell event, and there were about 3,500 people from all over the world. And it truly was amazing and life-changing. I mean, just the energy in the room, just the positivity, the vibration, everything that was going on. And I just thought, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I want this. And I want to impact others, as much as I can through the things that I'm learning, through encouraging, empowering, motivating. And so got certified through the John Maxwell team. And then that's kind of what led me down going, okay, well, I want to take this content and this material and everything that I'm learning, and I want to use it for good and hopefully empower others. So that's kind of how my podcast got started. So I just thought I could use this, I could do this, I could share some of my knowledge and some of my, journey with other people, and hopefully inspire them to want to live a better life, to want to find a better path, to want to, just increase their consciousness and hopefully, do good.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's interesting you said that, and that makes sense, because like doing something like that, you said you were in a divorce, and then you shortly after met someone, fell in love, had a good time, and had planned life together, and then lost them, and then still you're moving forward and trying to do things for people. And a lot of people, like, that speaks volume, and there's reason behind what, because a lot of people say, I want to have a podcast, I want to put content out there, I want to coach people, I want to be a positive influence, but they haven't been through any trial or tribulation, so you've been able to go through those things and not go down a dark, narrow path. I feel like the context driving the content out. So, I mean, that's cool.
Right. And that's my puppy barking in the background, so I apologize.
All good.
This is real life. So yeah, I wanted to take, my journey, and I wanted to do good with it. I wanted to, because I was sitting in a dark space. I was, heavy in grief, and I was not able to, function at a higher level. And so, going to the John Maxwell event, that was like the pivoting point of changing my life. And it just really was the point where I thought, I don't want to live in this dark, heavy place. There's so much life out there. There's so much to live for. There's so much, and yes, I lost a significant person in my life, but there's so much more for me to do here. And so I wanted to take that and use it for good.
I mean, that's interesting that you're in that space, and then you also are in marketing too, which, we're talking about marketing, and that's what we both do for a living. But I don't talk about that a lot on this show, but I want to a little bit today, because and those who are listening or watching who get bored with it, I'm sorry, but I can't run away from it all the time, because I feel like everyone is a marketer in some sense, no matter what it is. Especially in this day and age of having a social platform, every single piece of content that you post, whether it's you and your kids, your food, whatever, you're marketing something. You're either marketing your family, you're marketing a restaurant, they're not paying you, but you are branding for something. You're branding yourself, or, so in this day and age, I feel like we're connected to technology so much that we're always all marketing something.
And that's true. And like you said, when you're posting, some food at a restaurant, I mean, that's user-generated content, right? Exactly. I mean, these people who own a restaurant or anybody who, and I'm so sorry, she keeps.
It's all good.
You know, these people who own these companies or these brands, they could take and curate all that information and show its user-generated content and put it out there as, hey, look at all these people eating at my restaurant.
Yeah.
Look at all these people wearing my clothes. Look at all these people, you know, putting on my makeup or wearing my shoes or, you know, whatever it is, using my product or my service. And so that's an awesome way of marketing. And here's the thing, DJ. We in a world that's so easily accessible via social media right now, you know, everybody is marketing, but not everybody is a marketer.
Right.
And I think what happens is people create brands and businesses, and you know, we put them online and we start marketing them and we put them out there. But if I'm a painter or a chef or something in another space, that's what I am. That's what I do. I'm a painter. I'm a chef. That's what I'm trained for. I'm not trained to market. No. And so one of the things that I always, I try to figure out where the balance is those people need to concentrate on what they do best and let marketers concentrate on what they do best. And so let the marketers market for you. Yeah. That's kind of where I see it.
We run into that all the time to where, I mean, you have to sit down and say, you know, people have generated a business, they've grown to the point to where they're ready to take the next level. And they've done all their content generation. They've done all, you know, they put out everything. They've made the post and they're like, I really don't want to give this to someone, but at the same time, it's just like growing a business. You have to delegate. You have to start delegating, and you have to let the professionals do what they're good at. You know, we eat, live, and breathe this every single day, and this is all we focus on. So it's not so much. But here's another thing: is like I am a firm believer in branding over just marketing for me because what we do. Like, so I'm not going to take on a client without knowing every single thing there is to know about the industry, and then also every single thing there is to know about the culture inside their industry. You know, inside their business specifically, because most people who go in and try to market a business have a canned solution and say, here you go, this is what I can provide to you. But they literally have no knowledge of this person's service. And it can be something as easy as HVAC all the way to like a restaurant or something like an attorney. And, you know, when you say attorney and use that broad, I mean, there's 20 different, you know, you can go with that, you know, personal injury, you know, criminal, you know, estate, you know, so it's like those things. I see this industry extremely clouded with people who say, okay, I'm going to help you with SEO. I want to help you with the Google, you know, this and that, but they literally not only don't know the area and the demographic and the area and the audience, but they don't know the business. And that's what hurts us as true marketers who are passionate for people that, you know, for the people we work for, because we actually care, you know, and these people come in and they're just all about ROI, and like don't create a relationship at all.
Right. Like I want to get to know my clients. Yeah. I want to get to know their clients. I want to get to know what's the best way to speak to their clients? What's the best way to market to their clients? You know, I want to really dig in and know more about them, but not necessarily them, but who they're marketing to also. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's where I come back to this whole, if you're a chef or if you're a painter or an artist or, you know, musician or, you know, whatever industry or space you're in, attorney, you know, do that and do that really well and and outsource the marketing to the marketers, you know, that do it really well. So yeah, that's my philosophy.
No, for sure. And and there's another thing where people are scared to spend the money, you know, because in our industry, people get burned a lot, you know, it happens, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, I take a really nostalgic look at it. As far as I'm still going to sit down and say, hey, you know, what do you want to do here? I'm not afraid to tell someone no, like, no, that's not a good idea. And that's another hard thing. And that comes with experience, you know, years of working with people and saying, okay, I want to do this as my business. Well, no, I don't think we should, you know. But, and it goes back to what I was, originally talking about, is basically that, by having life experiences, negative or positive, it gives you a better realm of working with people and creating those interpersonal skills and being able to say, okay, we are facing this adversity right now. How do we overcome it?
Right. Well, and I think that's, in my podcast, I wanted to use my life experiences, my journey, and, whether it was right or wrong, just some of the things that helped me that I could share, with others. And hopefully they could take some of what I share and use it on their journey, if whatever they're facing in their life. And that was my whole intent was, if I learned what the recipe was for me to stay and maintain a healthy mindset. But it wasn't, it's kind of like I talk about with social media or digital marketing, it doesn't live in a silo. And so it's this, it's omni-channel, it's multi-channel. It's the same thing with a positive mindset. And it's really awesome that those two relate together too. So it's, I have to journal every day. I have to pray every day. I have to meditate every day. I have to exercise every day. I have to drink tons of water every day. I have to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet. I have to have people that I can talk to, that I can share privately, some of my thoughts and get feedback from. I mean, it's a whole recipe to create a healthy mindset and to maintain a healthy mindset. I listen to podcasts, I read, self-help and personal development books. So it's that whole recipe to stay healthy. And so I love sharing that information when I do my podcast, and I always like to find out what other people do to maintain their healthy mindset.
Yeah, I mean, the recipe you were talking about, like so many people may get turned off because they don't have that yet. Like, okay, I may be trying to work out, but I haven't got the diet down yet. I haven't taken the time to myself for 10 minutes a day to meditate or pray, or whatever it may be. I'm not drinking enough water. And then they look at the big picture and they get overwhelmed immediately. And then it all of a sudden demotivates them and already, turns them the wrong direction. I feel like that happens a lot. And it's, it's something that, you have to mix and blend it all well, but at the same time you were talking about like listening to, I got to the point to where before I even started wanting to do this, I listen to music when I drove. And, I was in oil and gas years back before I started doing what I'm doing now. And I was on the road all the time, listening to music all the time. Then I got into listening to talk radio, and that's before podcasts really took off. But I got to the point where I need some substance in things that I'm taking in. And I feel like a lot of us don't want to shut our brains off when we're in that, autopilot mode. But if you can just keep them on just a little bit while you're in that mode, it's amazing what it unlocks,
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I wanted to fill my brain. Music is great. I love listening.
Yeah, me too, of course, yeah.
But I wanted to fill my brain with more than just music. I wanted to find something that was inspirational, positive, motivational, empowering. And so that's kind of that's what led me down that path. And I'm a huge consumer of all kinds of content as far as personal development. But, I want to say one thing about the recipe and kind of go back how people get overwhelmed. So habits have to stack on top of each other. And I read all kinds of books, but you can't start something and go, okay, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes every day. I'm going to start this new exercise program. I'm going to start a huge, diet and change. You can't do that. You have to stack your habits on top of each other. So I would encourage anybody, to start with one task and figure out how to do that at a fairly decent rate and at a good pace and continue to do it, and then add your next habit on top of that. And I would just say, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with mindset and do you want to do meditations? Then start there. Do you want to start with exercise and do a workout? Then start there. But don't try to create this entire multi-channel, omni-channel change in your life at one time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I've said this before, and I always compare it because I'm a Neanderthal in these the aspect of like I'm always comparing it to like working out or food, whatever. Like, but when I first started training people 10 years ago, I would say, look, everyone knows if you jump on a diet, it works great, but after 2 or 3 weeks, you hit a plateau, and then you immediately want to
Right.
stop doing it. I said the way is to create a healthy lifestyle, not just set a goal weight and say, okay, once I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to go right back to the way I was. We all know it
Right.
takes, we all know it takes X amount of days to create a habit, and then it takes, literally a fraction of that to lose it. And it's what I always would say was a lot of people have problems with like soft drinks or something. So I'm like, okay, cut that out first. Let's try that for a little while, get over that, and then okay, let's go to fast food, cut that out, and then one thing at a time. And it's the same thing with, I feel like, trying to have positive reinforcement. But what would you say would be your motivation aside from, things you may have been through, but your daily now to continue to not only try to connect with people because you seem to have a good following and a lot of people that actually like to listen to you because you have good things to say. So what's your motivation to continue to put out stuff there as well as to, operate and move forward in your life?
So connecting with people like you, and like seriously, when people connect with me and they say, "Hey, I love your content," or "I saw you on social media," or "I listened to one of your podcasts," and they just give me literally, it's the slightest amount of feedback. They don't.
Yeah.
They just have to say, "I listened to your podcast. Great." Great podcast today, or great topic, or thanks for the share, or it made my day. That truly is inspiring to me. It really is. And so that's one of the motivations. And I love, I'm pretty open and I'm pretty honest and share a lot about my life. And I don't know, it helps me if I know that I'm helping other people.
Right.
And that's a motivation in itself, right there. Is if I could make a difference in one person's life, I don't need 10,000 people to listen to me every day, all day. But if I can make a difference in one person's life, that's enough for me to keep going.
I completely agree. I feel like I've had that. I've finally started to get back that affirmation. I wasn't even looking for it, but I'm like, wow, I'm doing this. I'm continuing to do it. And I continue to have people reach out and say, hey, I like what you're doing. I appreciate it. And I'm like, okay, well, if I put this out and put all this work into it, just exactly like you said, if one person gets something from this hour and multiple hours of marketing and producing and all that, if one person gets something out of it, then that's a reason to move forward. You're doing something right, and you don't have to be, we're talking about real stuff here. We're not trying to, this is why I reached out to you to connect, is because I'm really active on LinkedIn. I think you're more active on LinkedIn than I am, but I'm really active on LinkedIn. For our industry, it's so polluted, and a lot of other industries too, like insurance and any kind of sales.
Sure.
And then, as well as engineering, oil and gas and stuff like that, it's really polluted and saturated with a lot of stuff that's really not valuable content, in my opinion. And so when I run across someone that is actually connecting with people and not trying to sell them something immediately, because you'll look at, and the worst thing in the world is, and I hope everyone listens and watches this and pays attention, is that if you connect with me on LinkedIn and I don't know you, and the first thing you do is reach out and try to sell me something, I'm not going to remove you. I'm going to leave you on there, but I'm literally, you've lost my respect at that point, because we all have a business, and I appreciate that, and we're all trying to work, and but you have to create some kind of relationship. It's a lot of give and a little bit of take.
Well, and one of the things that I always like to say is, before social media, when we actually met people in person and you would lug around a briefcase full of material and content and brochures and all of that stuff, you didn't show up and start talking to somebody and say, here, this is the item or the product or the service that I want to sell you. You might have sat down over coffee or lunch or happy hour or whatever, and you might have said, hey, how are your kids? How is your family? What vacation did you take this week or last year? Or what are you like golf, or you like to play hockey, or you're really good at basketball, or you sing, you know, in the choir, you know, whatever it is, and you find some shared interest and some shared commonalities, and you talk about that. And this is happening over, you know, like I said, coffee or whatever.
Right.
And then you would say, hey, so how's your business going? And where are you struggling? And where are you finding challenges? And, you know, we have a product or a service that could maybe help you
Right.
in that area. And so it's the same thing on social media. It's the same thing.
It's just a different platform.
It is. It's like connecting in person back in the day,
Yeah.
but you're doing it virtually and you're doing it on social media. And so I'm the same way. My inbox gets bombarded, you know, and I connect with everybody who wants to connect with me, and I'm happy to connect with them. And, you know, you could just politely, you know, whatever you want to do with the sales jargon. But yeah, I want someone to get to know me. And so the other thing that I try to do, DJ, is because I want to continue to be active on LinkedIn and I want people to hopefully watch and appreciate my content, I want to go and appreciate their content as well. So I want to share the love. I want to make sure that I'm commenting, that I'm sharing any posts that I think are relevant. You know, I want to share the love because that's the way the algorithms work, for one, and that's the way real life works.
And not only that, but not being fake about it. Like, I feel like that we all put a facade on. And real quick, circling back to what you were talking about, like old school, basically this is our coffee shop. This is our dinner table. This is our bar, especially right now, you know, with everything being restricted. And our platforms where we put, you know, where we're connecting. You only do business with people that you like, know, and trust. And that's something that, you know, most people know that are in the industry, that are a lot of business to business people. But not only that, to consumers, like you can go back to like when you said like the people that bringing out the brochures, I immediately went back to, and this is going to hit home for people that are, you know, older than me for sure, but the Cutco knife salesman, you know, you remember that?
Yes.
Where they show up and say, here you go, you want to buy this, you know, knock on everyone's door. And you can't operate like that anymore. Not to knock their hustle, because man, I remember when that was a big deal, you know. But not only that, they had a lot of marketing behind that. People knew that brand. So when they showed up with that brand, they're like, okay, I already know the brand. They had context. But if you have no context and you show up and say, hey, buy this from me, why would I? You know, why do I want to buy that from you? Why do I want to work with you? Why do I trust you? You know what I mean?
Well, and DJ, you brought up a good point. When you drop in my inbox with something that you're wanting to sell without getting to know me, you are the door-to-door salesman.
Of course.
You are doing that. That's what you're doing. I mean, I grew up in, when I was younger, I remember the encyclopedia salesman. This is going to date me a little bit, but I remember the encyclopedia salesman coming to my parents' house, knocking on the door, trying to sell them a set of encyclopedias. And it's the same thing as, you know, there's no getting to how you doing today, and that's basically what they're doing. And so kind of relating it to old school marketing and old school sales, it's the coffee shop. This is the coffee shop.
Yep. This is where we connect and where we get to know each other. And you know, I don't want to get too far left field on that for people, you know, especially a lot of people who may be listening, who are your listeners and mine, who may not be in a business-to-business position. But not only that, but in making life decisions, you know, whether it be, hey, should I let this person come over and watch my child? Because, you know, a lot of that going on where people are having to work and kids are having to be homeschooled. How do I trust this person? I need to get to know them. I can't just pick them off of some app, and you know what I mean? You know, things like that, or, you know, other, you know, things like, you know, maybe relationships or whatever. It applies to everything. You know, if you don't have the context for something, you just dive in and there's an issue, well, you only have yourself to blame for it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think I did a LinkedIn post not too long ago, and I said, I want to be courted and dated before I get married.
Of course.
You know? And so, you know, I want somebody to get to know me. And you're right. It doesn't have to relate just to business.
No.
It relates to life too, you know, like, if I'm trying to build friendships, because right now it's hard. You're not out meeting people. You're not, you know, you're not out in networking or at events or in situations where you could possibly meet new people. And so this is your meeting place. This is what you're doing. So if you really want to, on a personal level, build a new relationship or a new friendship or what, a new connection, you have to do it, by asking the questions and getting to know the person.
Yeah. And back, because I almost lost myself before that, when I was talking about people being fake, so not only interacting with people, but if you don't really enjoy their content, don't waste their time. You know what I mean? It's like it's a push and pull thing. Like, if you give me respect, I'm going to say thank you. If you ask me to check your stuff out, of course I'm going to go look at it because you took the time to, give me some attention. But if I don't like it, I'm not going to stay in there and lie. Just, you know what I mean? I feel like we've lost a little bit of our realness because we're so worried about the facade we may be putting on, our image or our brand or whatever it may be.
Right. No, I get it. It's the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And, I guess, that leading into, what you're doing now, and, from a marketing background, what would be the most influential moment you've had or lesson you've learned through all of this stuff going on and what you've been doing and working with people?
So last year when I started my podcast, I told you I'd been fired from a job. And so I was on LinkedIn. Like, I didn't know that LinkedIn had exploded into this content generating platform. I literally got on to look for a job. Right. That's what I was doing. And while I was looking for a job, I decided to create this podcast. And as I was looking for a job, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm going through my feed and I'm like, oh, they're putting out some pretty interesting information. Oh, that's really good. And I started connecting with all these people that I would see on my feed putting out all this information and this content. And then it was like the light bulb moment where I went, I can interview them on my podcast and we could share not only his or her platform and audience, but mine as well. And then it's that power of sharing with both of them. And so that's kind of how I went down this journey and this path. Is I didn't realize that LinkedIn was what it was, but I started looking for a job and ended up, creating these amazing connections and this amazing podcast. And so that's kind of what I loved about it. And that's what I would just say, that's my biggest takeaway is, and I'm going to really even go one step further. And I've become friends with some of the people. Now they don't live anywhere near me, right? But we exchanged phone numbers. We text, we sometimes have phone conversations, but I truly became friends with them through connecting on LinkedIn, through inviting them to be a guest on my podcast. And we just, just checking on each other and just staying in touch. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's great to know that you can, go out, get out of your comfort zone, connect with someone who's like-minded and be able to, not only, maybe do business together, but also create a, friendship and, it's give and take. I know by the time I know you have to go. So, is there any, first off, I have a gift for you. I'm going to send it to you. I'll send it because I like to give people, you took the time to be on my show, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts or anything that you advise for people, and this is on a mass scale, not just people in business, but that you may have, dealing with what you have in life and as well as, any adversity.
So, my belief, just because I've experienced divorce, I've experienced death, I've experienced raising kids, I really feel like, and it's so easy for me to say this, and it's hard for me to do, and it's hard for everybody else to do, but you only have this moment. You don't have, the past is the past. It no longer exists, and the future hasn't happened yet.
Right.
You only have this moment. So just create the best you that you could be in this moment. And that's the way I want to show up. Is it easy every single day? No. Does my head go to the future and to the past Absolutely. But just everything I told you, that whole recipe of healthy mindset, I just try to stay as centered as possible. And that would be my parting words is if you could try to stay as centered and just realize you only have this moment.
Yeah.
And you could die tomorrow, your spouse could die tomorrow, your kids could die tomorrow. And I hate to say that
it's real. It's real.
It's real. And especially with what's going on in the world today. I mean, we don't know. And
Right.
so, I want to show up with love and compassion and generosity every single moment of every single day. Is it realistic? No, I'm human. But that's my goal every
Right.
single day. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I say, what are my intentions for the day? And how do I want to show up? And, just asking God to give me that space to have that intention and show up in the best form of me possible.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I like I like your message and I like what you have behind it. And like I said, I know you got to go and we got to wrap this up, but I wanted to say thank you. And I hope we can chat again soon. And other than that, I appreciate you coming on.
DJ, it's been a pleasure. I've loved talking to you. I feel like, we're old friends.
I know, right?
It's been great. Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you for inviting me, and thank you for letting me share a little bit of my story. I appreciate it.
Of course. And thanks everyone for listening, watching. Everyone, please subscribe to the podcast.